It's like, so you suck this much.
Good. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our special meeting of council for Friday, June the 6th. We'll call the meeting to order at 2:31, and we will start with the playing of the national anthem. Okay, we would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging that town of Shelburne resides within the traditional territory and ancestral lands of the Anishinaabe, including the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, Chippewa, and the people of the Three Fires Confederacy. These traditional territories upon which we live, work, play, and learn are steeped in history and tradition. And it is with this statement that we declare to honor and respect the past and present connection of Indigenous peoples with this land, its waterways, and resources. Are there any disclosures of pecuniary interest with respect to the one and only agenda item on today's agenda? Okay, I didn't suspect so. So with that, I will turn it over to our CAO to present her report regarding the Fiddle Park upgrade project award of tender.
Thank you, Mayor Mills. So I'm going to start with the background first and refer to the scope of the project that was included in this tender. And you have in the summary in Appendix 2 the budget that Council approved and that detail under the 2025 capital project description. So included in this specific tender were a range of items. The site preparation and servicing, professional fees, and there's an allocation of that to this project only. Basic grass parking lot. We included the pedestrian circulation and accessibility improvements, and that includes the trail and the hard surfacing of those. Also the multifunctional trail. Overall site furnishings, and that includes such things as benches, chairs, lights, anything that supports like bike racks, the viability of the space. Overall tree planting, and we had noted in the budget process that this would be reduced if we got a grant and we would apply that to the overall project later. There's a basketball court and there'll be shade structures, and then obviously a portion of the contingency is allocated to this. I do want to mention, and just in case we expected questions on that, that the playground, which was a significant project as well for just about, I think, 430,000, let's round it up. It was not included in this tender for site work and all other components of the project. That was a separate request for proposal. That's been awarded. It was well within budget. So with respect to the process, the tender was issued through SBA and Associates, and Steve is here with us. If there's any questions following what my overview includes, he's happy to answer any questions. We issued the tender, and as of the closing date, we had 6 bids. They're detailed. the letter from SBA itemizing and reviewing all of the bids is attached, dated June the 4th. Based on that recommendation, the staff report is aligned with that, saying that TDI XGD, which is the low bid, would be the recipient of the project upon the approval of council for $2,358,142.52 plus HST. And that would bring, that would bring the total award to $2,399,645.82. With respect to the process, and I will recognize that when we outlined the timing, we wanted to especially focus in on Canadian firms. This firm is a Canadian firm. It does have a hybrid relationship with an American counterpart, but we have confirmed this Mono-based firm has done significant work in Ontario, let alone Canada, and has also a number of major projects in the country currently. So that really is the summary. It is the low bid. We're hoping that with council's approval that we will mobilize as early as next week or the week after. I think we've mentioned before that our timelines remain intact to be done by mid-November 2025. So that, I think that's really it for my summary. If there's any questions for myself or Steve Burnett, we're happy to take them.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Councillor Bernardo? You're muted, Walter.
Okay. On the basketball court, is it a full basketball court?
Yes. Well, I should clarify. It's not like the NBA size.
No. But it's a full
Yeah,
basketball
court. It's yes, and there'll be a shade structure adjacent to it. And we made, I think when we went through the project scope, we made a confirmed decision to call it a basketball court and not a multi-use court to provide what was identified at the Parks and Recreation Master Plan, the support for that particular sport need in our community, particularly for youth, and pickup and everything else that was identified as lacking.
So when that court is done, it will have the lining in it for the basketball, where you have the line for the dividing the half courts plus the key around the basketball net, correct?
Correct, and nets.
And the nets, yes. And the nets will be steel nets so that we don't end up having to replace them year after year.
We did have a conversation whether or not there should be nets or just rims, and that I think that one of the comments was that the youth prefer the net in terms of the experience, but we certainly haven't finalized that yet.
Okay, and the only reason I mentioned the steel style nets or whatever you want to call them is the fact that they're a little harder than the cord type nets to destroy. If you know, with that being a sort of isolated area out there with not housing around it, that you know will prevent vandalism, so to speak. And it of all the features we're doing, will the basketball court be one of the very first features that will eventually be put in there?
I'm going to leave that question in terms of the rollout. The playground is a front end is in terms of timing. The basketball court will all rely on weather, but Steve, I'm not sure what we've advised the firm or what we expect to advise them in terms of project timing.
Yeah, I can maybe speak to it, and then Will, if you want to go first, Will, or either way, ultimately I think it really will depend on the contractor's timing. Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the Councillor Bernardo. I don't believe the basketball court had a specific priority in the overall piece, but I do think we can talk to the contractor about that as we move forward. But I think we really can only answer that question after we get the full schedule and planning from the contractor.
Okay, and the only reason I mentioned that is in the last while I've been going through Greenwood Half Court, the amount of people that are there and trying to utilize that half court is amazing. It's just full every day you go through. and the need for something is the reason, I guess, for the question. So if it can be prioritized, I think that it will satisfy somewhat the need in this community, especially for the juvenile and up age.
Yeah,
Denise?
fully.
Oh,
Sorry, I was just going to say fully understood. I think the other thing that council needs to be aware of, and probably wise to say it now so that it can be transferred through the public knowledge, is obviously we don't want anyone in there while it's under construction from both a risk, liability, and insurance perspective. So even if it was prioritized, I really think we have to count on sort of areas not necessarily being accessible, even though they look great, only from protection of the construction site. But that is definitely something we can talk to the contractor through what their construction schedule and phasing looks like. So,
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
is that what you were going to say too, Denise?
Yeah, I was going to say, while we're prioritizing the project scope, we have to ensure what Steve said, that we cannot have elements of it open. But I mean, what our goal is to have everything done. The other thing, as soon as we have met with the contractor in terms of the scheduling, our intent is to put a big like billboard like sign up in the park with an overview of the schematic of the playground and the vision of the park layout and some key milestones in terms of when we expect to be finished, or at least the progress reports, and then keeping that live on the website. We've also talked about, just even today, is creating, now I've lost the word, the video that shows it from start, like, so it's when it starts to where it's finished, so that we can then condense that and literally see the project over probably a 5-minute time lapse photography. That's what we're going to be looking at using video. So,
Councillor Fegan.
In regards to the tree planting, do we have any idea on what types of trees that we're looking at, or is it too early to ask that question?
I can answer the fact that what we're looking at is only the trees that are on our species list. We're only going to use native trees. And these trees are deciduous hardwoods. These don't include a lot of evergreens because the intent is to have shade. We did apply for a significant grant from Tree Plan Canada because we were using this as part of our canopy enhancement within the park. But on top of that, we are including a number of shade structures to ensure that there's immediate shade. Will, do you want to add anything in terms of the species that we're particularly looking at?
Oh yeah, there'll be some like all native trees, like Denise was saying, like maples, some pine, some other shrubbery going on there. I got all the Greek names, but I don't have the English names on the tender. So, but yeah, and then we're also working with that grant company still as well, and hoping to hear back from them for our funding as well.
Okay, I'm just curious as well. I mean, thinking long term, if we've got enough maples, perhaps down the road, something to consider would be like sugar bush type thing.
Yeah, we can look at that as well. I'm just trying to find my list here because I do have a list of the actual trees. But yeah, they are all in the Greek names, fortunately. So there would be some like oaks as well, I see in here. Some more. Yeah, I don't see the sugar bush trees in here, but we can look at that as well. There's multiple. There's, I would say, at least almost 200 things in here for planting.
Okay. I'll just segue a titch in terms of the area that's adjacent to the community garden is what we've identified as the potential where a more naturalized sugar bush type of environment may actually be able to be built up as well, Councillor Fegan. So we've actually had a meeting recently with NVCA because we want to start exploring some linkages and the potential of going through the bog area on the corridor going to 89 is even a potential with an elevated boardwalk. We had mentioned that with the removal of the mini putt and whether there would be capacity when this project is completed to look at alternative or additional projects. So we're going to park that for now, but we think that that potentially will be something we resurrect if we have the money, and we would come back to you with that discussion. And we're going to initiate some preliminary review with NVCA in the next couple of weeks.
Terrific. Thank you.
Councillor Guicciardi.
Just a quick question. While we are in the construction process and once the project is completed, are there any plans or in place for enhanced security, be that through video cameras while the construction's going on? And then, I mean, after we've spent all this money, and it would be nice to keep an eye on it somehow. So I don't know whose question that is.
I'm
Is
gonna
that
leave that to Will because we usually always have cameras, but I'm gonna.
Yeah, we are going to add some more cameras in there to get full sight of the site. Because we do have the one at Dog Park now, one at the community garden. So we're just going to add on to those with more cameras around the building and around the amphitheater and the playground as well.
okay? Thanks, Will.
No problem.
Councillor Bernardo?
Just to follow up on Councillor Fegan's question on trees. At the MBCA, we did have a presentation from an organization called Maple Leafs Forever, and they do give out grant funding when you're planting maple trees. So while you're talking to the MBCA, I'm sure you can get the contacts for the Maple Leafs Forever, and they may give you grants for more maple trees to be planted. So that's just a bit of information for you.
Hey, I'll look it
The
up.
founder of that organization actually lives in Mulmer.
Yeah.
Thank you. We will.
Deputy Mayor Hall.
Again, just going back to the list of the quotes and what have you. So staff have a fairly confident feeling then related to the large gaps or large differences between the proposed quote and the others related to the site work costs are obviously much lower with the quote we've got than the others, as well as some of the landscaping features. So we're confident that we'll be able to come with the quote's going to come within those parameters.
I'll let Steve take that because they actually did all the reference checks and engaged with this firm hands-on.
Yeah, and I can maybe speak to that through you, Your Worship, to Councillor Hall. We have done as Denise indicated, we did do checks on well, a few of the contractors, but specifically the low tender bid. Got excellent remarks back on their workmanship as well as quality and how they dealt with contracts and projects. I think one of the advantages here is this is actually a local mono firm, even though, as Denise said, there's a sister company that they have done a lot of work in the States and in Florida through a sister company. This is a firm that's been here since the 80s, obviously local to the Shelburne area, and really their expertise is in this type of project. They recently completed almost an identical type of scope, not obviously the same design, but the type of scope in Newmarket, and have been working heavily for the Toronto Zoo, Parks Canada. So they were set up around this type of work and both golf course and then these sort of recreational facilities. So, well, anyone tells you that everything will be spot on for construction should probably be fired right out of the gates. Our understanding is that they're happy with their pricing. It seems in line, and we're comfortable with our recommendations. So,
Carrie, for the benefit of the public that may be watching this probably later, could you just remind us how this project's being funded?
You through the mayor. The majority of the funding is coming from development charges. We are pulling some items that are not DC, that are not completely DC eligible out of our Parks and Recreation reserves.
None of it's coming from tax base, though.
No.
Okay. All right. Anything else on this before we go on? Councillor Wagner?
Yeah, just really quickly. Does this include the amphitheater, like the stones and all that sort of thing too? I can't remember. Okay. I was like, I can't remember when that's supposed to happen. So, okay, perfect. That was just the one thing I wasn't 100% sure, not seeing it specifically listed, I guess, right here that, but that it does include it. Okay. Okay, thank
Okay.
you so much.
All right, so I need a motion then to receive the report and for council to approve the tender submission from TDI XGD for a total of $2,358,142.52 plus HST. That moved by Benado, seconded by Gashardi. All in favor? Any opposed? No. Okay, that's carried. All right, confirming motion or confirming bylaw motion. Councillor Benado and Councillor Wagner, all in favor? That's carried, and a motion to adjourn. Councillor Benado and Councillor Fegan, all in favor? Carried. Okay, thank you all. Have a good weekend.
Same. Everyone have
Thanks,
a good
everyone.
weekend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.